The airport was alive with the usual chaos, families rushing with luggage, businessmen typing frantically on their laptops, children crying from exhaustion, and flight announcements echoing over the speakers. Among the hurried travelers was a young woman named Emily, who clutched her boarding pass in one hand and a small diaper bag in the other. In her arms, she carried her sleeping baby daughter, Lily. Emily looked exhausted, her hair loosely tied back, her clothes simple but clean, and her eyes showing the unmistakable weight of sleepless nights and endless responsibilities. She was a single mother, barely surviving from paycheck to paycheck, and this trip was not one she had planned. It was, in fact, a mistake, one that would change her life forever. Emily had meant to board a domestic flight to her hometown, where her mother lived. She needed help, even just for a few weeks, because taking care of Lily alone had become overwhelming. But in the confusion of juggling her baby, the bags, and the pressure of rushing through the crowded terminal, she accidentally walked into the wrong boarding line. The gate agent, distracted and overworked, scanned her pass without noticing the error. Before Emily realized, she found herself stepping onto a flight that was bound not for a small town, but for a major international city. Settling into her seat, Emily tried to hide her panic. She glanced down at Lily, who stirred slightly and whimpered before falling back asleep in her arms. Emily pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead and sighed, her heart heavy with anxiety. "I don't know how I'll fix this," she whispered to herself. But fate had its own mysterious way of working. Next to her sat a man in his mid-30s, dressed in a crisp white shirt and tailored navy suit. His presence was commanding, yet his expression was distant, almost hollow. His name was Alexander Knight. A wealthy and powerful CEO, known across the business world as ruthless, brilliant, and untouchable. But beneath the carefully constructed image, Alexander was a man weighed down by loneliness. He had built empires, but lost touch with the warmth of family, love, and genuine connection. He often traveled alone, his life filled with meetings, contracts, and endless obligations, yet his heart longed for something he couldn't buy with all his billions. When Emily sat beside him, he barely glanced at her at first. He was used to strangers sitting next to him on flights, and usually, they tried to strike up conversations about his company, his wealth, or his success once they recognized him. But Emily seemed too preoccupied with her baby to even notice who he was. That, in itself, intrigued him. As the plane took off, Lily began to stir. Her little face scrunched up, and soon her cries pierced the cabin. Emily flushed with embarrassment as passengers turned to look at her, some with annoyance, others with sympathy. "Shoo, baby, please," Emily murmured, bouncing her gently, and fumbling with the bottle she had packed. Her hands trembled, her eyes filled with tears of frustration. She had been through this before, people judging her for being a young mother, for not having a partner, for not being good enough. Just then, Alexander reached over, his voice calm yet firm. "Here," he said, picking up the blanket the flight attendants had left. "Cover her, it'll help her feel more secure." Emily blinked in surprise, unsure whether to trust the stranger's advice. But something in his steady tone made her listen. She draped the blanket around Lily, and slowly, the baby calmed, snuggling closer into Emily's arms. Relief washed over her. "You're good with babies," Emily whispered, her voice soft but tinged with surprise. Alexander gave a faint smile, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of sadness. "I haven't been around them much. But I remember what my sister used to do with her kids." He quickly turned his gaze away, as if afraid of revealing too much. The conversation could have ended there, but something about the moment sparked a quiet bond between them. Emily, usually shy and guarded, found herself opening up in small ways. She explained that she was heading to see her mother, that life had been difficult, and that she had made a mistake boarding the wrong flight. Alexander listened, really listened, something most people rarely did in her life. His silence wasn't empty, it was attentive, filled with genuine curiosity and unspoken empathy. Hours passed, and while most of the cabin slept, Emily and Alexander spoke in hushed tones. She didn't know his identity, nor did she care. To her, he was simply a kind stranger who didn't judge her for being a struggling single mom. To him, she was a reminder of the simple humanity he had lost sight of in his high-powered world. At one point, Lily shifted restlessly, and Emily tried to adjust her without waking her. Alexander, without hesitation, reached out to help, carefully holding the baby so Emily could stretch her tired arms. It was a small gesture, but to Emily, it felt monumental. She watched as this powerful-looking man cradled her child with surprising gentleness, his expression softening as he gazed at the sleeping baby. "Funny," Alexander murmured. "She trusts me already. Babies usually cry when I'm near." "Maybe she knows you're not as cold as you look," Emily replied without thinking, then blushed at her own boldness. Alexander chuckled, the sound low and genuine. It had been so long since anyone dared to tease him in such a human way. He liked it. The flight continued, but what had begun as an accident slowly unraveled into something neither of them expected. For Emily, it was a reminder that kindness still existed in the world, even from strangers. For Alexander, it was the beginning of something he didn't quite understand but couldn't ignore. A sense of belonging, of warmth, of family. By the time the plane landed, Emily realized her mistake would come with consequences. She didn't have the money to rebook another ticket back to her intended destination, and she wasn't sure what to do next. But as she struggled with her bags and tried to juggle Lily, Alexander found himself unable to just walk away. He didn't know why, but the thought of leaving Emily and her baby stranded filled him with unease. For the first time in years, he felt a pull stronger than his meetings, his empire, his wealth. He offered to help. "Come with me. Just until you figure things out. It's not safe for you to be stuck here with a baby and no plan." Emily hesitated, torn between pride and desperation. She didn't want charity, but something in his eyes told her this wasn't about pity, it was about something deeper, something even he hadn't fully realized yet. And so, with trembling trust, she agreed. Neither of them knew it yet, but this wrong flight was perhaps the most right decision fate had ever made for them.